Finn Wolfhard's directorial debut is now out. Let's talk about it.
The line's been cut. Oh, I've always wanted to say that.
We're gonna die. We're all gonna die.
What's up, my movie people? Today I'm reviewing Hell of a Summer. Before I get into my thoughts, make sure to leave a like as it is free to do so and it helps me out a lot. And this movie has actually been in the can for some time as it premiered for critics all the way back in 2023 at TIFF, where it was actually named the runner-up for the People's Choice Award that year. And later on, I think it was August 2024, Neon actually acquired distribution rights for this. And now it's finally out, and I can say for a fact this is one of the most fun movies of the year that I have seen, and it makes sense that it almost won People's Choice Award at TIFF. Even though it was such a small movie, it just is so much fun, and I get why a lot of people really enjoyed this, and I'm kind of glad that Neon picked it up as they're killing it with their release game lately, with Anora just winning Best Picture, but also this just seems like their type of movie to put out. And as I said in the intro, this is actually Finn Wolfhard's directorial debut, but I kind of lied as he's actually a co-director on it with Billy Burke, who is a person that I wasn't too familiar with before this, but I gotta say, I'll have to keep an eye on him for whatever he does after this, whatever project he decides to act in, direct in, because this was a blast from the start, and it's a very strong first feature film from both of them. And I've always been a Finn Wolfhard fan ever since his big break. You know, we've all talked about him. We all know him from Stranger Things. That's what his first big thing was. And he was in It. And a little fun fact for you all, the first It movie was my first time seeing a rated R movie in theaters. I saw it with a couple friends. It was a great time and still one of my favorite horror movies to this day. But let's get back to Hell of a Summer, because I really loved how this was just a big love letter to the famous slashers that came out in the 80s, and it really follows those classic cliches and tones that those did too. Another huge positive for me is that it leaned into the campiness, and yes, pun intended on that one, because this does take place at a camp with camp counselors basically getting killed the whole movie. And what I mean by the campiness is that it leans extremely into the awkward and silliness that some other comedies don't. I've always been a huge fan of awkward comedies, you know, when a lot of the characters are just talking and, you know, it's just that extremely awkward silence after a joke that one character says. I'm a personal huge fan of that. Sometimes the campiness in movies don't work for me, but sometimes, like this one, I just had such a huge laughter of a time with this one. I was cracking up in my seat at some of these line readings, and having it be a lot of campy humor take place at a camp made it even better. I was like, is that on purpose, man? I swear it's on purpose that they're leaning so hard into the campiness while it takes place at a camp with camp counselors. And on the subject of camp counselors, I think it would be a fun thing to do, man. I'm kind of past that point, but I mean, one of the characters in here who's a camp counselor is 24 years old, being a camp counselor for 8 years straight. Hey, so maybe I still have a chance, but it just looks like a lot of fun, just them messing around. But I think on a serious note, the way they used this small area and the small budget of this movie was very smart, and I really had a great time with the set design here. A small negative that I do want to talk about is that I wish it leaned a little more into the horror genre while keeping that fresh, campy humor. With this big cast, you have a nice amount of kills, but sadly, a lot of them happen off screen. What I mean by that, kind of off screen, as some of them you can see the shadow of a death. You get to see a couple of the kills, but a lot of them is just, the kill's about to happen, and then it cuts away to, another person who's still alive in this movie. I wish that we got to see more of the goriness of these kills, something like, Halloween and all that. I love seeing the, goriness. It's the one time where you get to see a lot of gore happen, because, movies can go very far with it because it's just a movie. Don't worry about it. I don't know if this was like a budget restraint on them or a filmmaker's decision, but I think it would have been an even bigger slam dunk for me if it had much more gore and they went for more scares, because you could have easily had the first half, focus on the campiness, a lot of humor here, and then, aggressively change the tone into a very scary movie. I think that would have been a really cool idea. With the cast here, you have a very nice, likable group of actors, but for me, it was definitely Fred Heckinger who stole the show. And what's funny about him, I had no idea who he really was before. I know he showed up on The White Lotus season 1 a couple years ago, but last year, everything changed for this man. He was in Thelma, Gladiator 2, Craven, and then in Nickel Boys. I mean, he was cast in a lot of stuff last year. Yeah, I don't know if he filmed that all almost in the same year, or they just all coincidentally came out in the same year, but he made a huge impression on me last year. He's so great with these different genres, being the serious tone of Nickel Boys, silly series of Craven, or just comedy aspect of playing silly characters like in Gladiator 2. Whoever's casting him needs to keep doing it because he has such a great screen presence and nails this type of awkward humor. Also, Billy Burke and Finn Wolfhard, our directors here, are also acting in the movie, but they stepped down to supporting roles. They had some nice line readings, but another person who stood out was Abby Quinn, who I've only seen in a couple other things, but her character here was also very likable. Overall, Hell of a Summer is another fun and crowd-pleasing slasher from the first-time directors Finn Wolfhard and Billy Burke. It clearly is a love letter to the 80s slashers, and it's paced very well, but I do wish it leaned more into the horrors and scary aspects that some other horror movies do, because I did like the campy aspects in this, the humor in here, but I did wish it was just a little bit scarier. Fred Heckinger continues to shine on screen, and this just confirms to me that he should be cast in, every comedy and horror movie that comes out after this. I'm going to give Hell of a Summer a strong 7.5 out of 10. I really do hope that you guys go out and check this one out. It is one of the most fun movies of the year that I've seen. It's not a 10 out of 10, but it's never going to be a 10 out of 10, a horror slasher movie like this. But as I said, it's a lot of fun. It's a crowd pleaser. It's very campy, has some fun kills, and it's got a nice ending that I really did like, and I'll definitely be seeing this one again. But if you did see it, leave your own thoughts down below in the description. If you did enjoy my review, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.